Sambal said goodbye with a bang, quite literally after that first lap accident. A great race with team orders, overtakes and even driver lineup changes. Here are my driver ratings for the Dutch Grand Prix. After qualifying a disappointing 7th in a Red Bull that looked far off the pace, his race ended almost immediately. Coming out of the final sector on lap 1, Max saw the dry patch, trying to push to the limit as he usually does. He accelerated, but it was too early and spun, crashing against the wall, and luckily no one collected him. It did trigger a red flag and ended his weekend before it even began. Not who I would have put my money on to win it in lap 1 in semi-wet conditions, but at last here we are, so he gets a 4. Oliver Bearman had a tough qualifying session, knockout in Q1 behind his teammate and both Astons. During the second formation lap ahead of the restart, his Haas just broke down on track, triggering a third formation lap and forcing him into an early retirement when he was sitting at P16. I'm rating him with just a 5 and not lower because apparently there were some inconsistencies between both Haas cars that might have made Bearman's car harder to drive, and the retirement wasn't his fault after all. Lance Stroll started near the back in 19 and got behind teammate Alonso following the opening lap chaos, but as the laps ticked by, he lacked pace and repeatedly complained on the radio about car damage. Aston Martin brought him in for 2 pit stops to investigate, but with 27 laps remaining, they retired the car. 5. Esteban Ocon showed great early initiative, storming up to 12 by lap 8. He was made to give back the position to Albon, even though at that point in the circuit there were no longer yellow flags, which I consider to be fair. When an accident of that magnitude happens, no racing should be allowed, or ways to cheat the system to gain an advantage. Haas' strategy didn't help him during what remained of his race. Didn't matter anyway, because on lap 53 he retired. Another 5. Valtteri Bottas continued his solid Saturday form by outqualifying Checo. 5 weekends in a row ahead of the Mexican, if I'm not wrong. Pitting before Perez allowed his teammate to execute an uppercut. Well, that and the fact his stop was slow as fuck. Eventually, his rear wing failed, forcing Cadillac to retire his car 11 laps from the end. But I did like Bottas' race overall, one of his best this season, a 7. The Williams are just nowhere at this point in the season. It seems like they're just trying to not end up fighting with the Cadillac drivers. Alex Albon started 16. Capitalized early on the restarts to hover near the top 10. Unfortunately, Williams put him on an aqua pit schedule that dumped him into traffic. Late in the race, he tried overtaking his teammate Carlos Sainz round the outside of turn 1, but the Spaniard locked up his brakes and crashed into him. A 6 for Albon. Oh, and you all know his rating ain't gonna be good. Easily one of Sainz's worst Formula 1 weekends, coming right after his contract extension announcement and a race in Hungary where he crashed into the leader while being a backmarker. In this race, Williams left him out on dead tires, and to crown a miserable day, he misjudged his braking zone and slammed into teammate Albon. The guy is now making close to 30 million with his new contract. What a way to celebrate. He gets a 2. Just don't crash into your teammate or the race leader next time, please. A quiet, drama-free learning weekend for Sergio Pérez and Catalan. Outqualified by Bottas, Perez ran a long first attempt to overtake his teammate when he had troubles with the stop. He picked up 7 positions primarily due to the 6 DNF ahead and the Williams crash, finishing 2 laps down and nearly 40 seconds behind 14th place. Still, it ain't really his fault, is it? It's a 6 for him. Franco Colapinto ran the older spec Alpine without the upgrade package brought for Gasly. 2/10 of the Frenchman in qualifying means they probably haven't maximized what the upgrades can give them. He made a fantastic getaway up to P9 at some point, but made a crucial error by overtaking Tsunoda under double yellow flags at Verstappen's crash site. A drive-through penalty dropped him to last, and a subsequent 10-second penalty for another yellow flag infraction capped off a frustrating, penalty-riddled race. And honestly, I like seeing the FIA handing out penalties for drivers trying to sneak in overtakes when there's been a massive crash on track. That's no moment to be racing. He gets a 4. The Brazilian Gabriel Bortoleto delivered a stunning qualifying to start 9. Do you all remember an interview when he's playing how Verstappen had always given him good advice? Well, funny enough, they were the only 2 drivers to spin on lap 1, but in Bortoleto's case, he just managed to avoid the barriers. He dropped 4 spots due to that and miraculously avoided a violent T-bone collision with teammate Hülkenberg. An uphill battle from that moment on. He gets a 6 for that qualifying session mainly. Arvid Lindblad excelled on Saturday by putting his car into Q3, but just as with Colapinto, passing on the double yellows during Verstappen's crash meant he was penalized. The drive to penalty ruined his afternoon, forcing him onto a desperate one-stop strategy where he held up a massive train of cars on the graded medium tires before falling to 12th. Again, a 6 for that qualifying session. And would you look at that, is Yuki Tsunoda making me have to edit my templates. Great! The Japanese driver wasn't the chosen one to substitute Hadja at Red Bull despite being the reserve driver, but he did get the car for the Racing Bull seat. With zero preparation or racing miles under his belt this season, Yuki put on an impressive performance, qualified 12th, kept his nose clean, outpaced his rookie teammate and finished P11. Less than 5 seconds away from the points and giving us a beautiful overtake on Pierre Gasly and giving him an 8. Pierre Gasly was entrusted with Alpine's new floor upgrade package. No amount of upgrades could get him off the Lindblad train and he lost ground to Hülkenberg and Tsunoda in the melee, but ended up overtaking Yuki to get the final point award in place, 7. Fernando Alonso qualified in 18th place after he encountered some traffic on his final lap of Q1. But with a new Honda power unit upgrade to go with the chassis upgrade to Hungary, he showed everyone he still got it. Not as if anyone doubts him at this point, to be honest. A masterclass in tire conservation and racecraft. Aston Martin took advantage of clean air by extending his first stint to lap 34 without losing pace. So it wasn't all in Alonso's hands. Aston also did the par with the strategy. At the end, he fended off Gasly to gain 9 positions on a track notoriously difficult for overtaking. An 8 for him. The best part about Nico Hülkenberg's race is how he managed to avoid what could have been a really ugly collision with his teammate during lap 1. If for some reason you're still here and haven't watched his onboard, you just have to see it. After this video ends, of course. Audi got him into a tube-stop strategy which made him jump Gasly and the midfield train to comfortably seal 8th place as the best non-top team finisher. Lawson qualified just a 10th behind Verstappen in 8th and dropped a calm, error-free race in 7th. With Verstappen out early, Lawson maximized Red Bull's point haul. He basically was the perfect second driver or replacement driver. When the number 1 ain't around, he was there to pick up the pieces. Not literally, the Stubbs were in charge of that after Verstappen's crash. To me, this seems like the final proof everyone needed to realize that the Red Bull car of previous seasons wasn't built for anyone but Verstappen. It probably cost Tsunoda his F1 career, and it almost cost Albon, Perez and Lawson theirs. He gets an 8.5. Oscar Piastri yet again couldn't match Norris during qualifying, started a decent P4 and surprisingly surged to P3 on hard tires. However, McLaren completely botched his strategy. They pitted him prematurely on lap 19 to cover Russell's undercut, fitting another set of hards, and left him helpless against the Ferrari. A late switch to use subs was too little, too late. I feel like Piastri is struggling this season compared to Norris overall, but during the races he is capable of showing some speed. Not when McLaren plays against him though. I'm giving him a 7, but it's pretty hard to rate him today. Charles Leclerc was the only one capable of overtaking during the sprint race, and he was showing some serious pace all throughout the weekend. But unsurprisingly for everyone who has been following his career, something just had to go wrong again. Ferrari changed power delivery for the Q3, which made him qualify P6, behind Hamilton, who was being just straight up slower than him during the weekend. Despite getting to P4 after getting past Piastri and Hamilton at the start, Ferrari gave the best strategy to the second car instead of the first one. Yet again, it's just a chronic problem for Ferrari. I'm not saying they're actively benefiting Hamilton, it's just a mistake Ferrari seems to constantly make. Doesn't matter who is in front. And let's talk about those team orders. Were they actually team orders or were they not? I honestly don't care much about their phrasing. They definitely sounded like team orders. What I don't understand is the amount of people saying not obeying team orders is bad. In my F1, I want the best drivers possible, and a good driver doesn't let his teammate pass when he thinks he has a shot of finishing ahead of him if they battle it out on track. I understand it coming from a team perspective, but from the point of view of following a specific driver and the spectacle on track, it is much more entertaining when they have to actually fight for every position and they cannot be gifted to you. If you're a neutral fan, you don't like team orders. At least that's how it should be. And of course, the last virtual safety car favored Hamilton, and the Brit ended up ahead of him anyway. The only driver faster than Leclerc in clean air during the race was Antonelli. If it wasn't for the quali, I think he had a shot at winning, and giving him an 8. He was too fast not to give him a really good score, and that overtake on Piastri was just perfection. Just like I like drivers not following team orders, I understand drivers who do everything possible within the books to gain a position. In this case, that means complaining on the radio about them being in different strategies to try and make the team give him the position. Lewis Hamilton did a pretty solid job. Leclerc's pace this weekend was mega, but Hamilton managed to take advantage of the monegasque luck to end up ahead of him anyway, so kudos to him for that. That brake testing at the end wasn't really a brake test, as the telemetry has confirmed, and Leclerc shaking his head will surprise me if this is written as anything other more than adrenaline running high after the race. Still, that lack of pace compared to his teammate during the Grand Prix just can't go unnoticed, and giving him a 7.5. George Russell, if he is missing 3 points at the end of the year to become champion, he knows where he missed them. This is a choose your fighter, philosophy, or driver scenario. On one hand, you've got guys like Charles Leclerc not letting pass his teammate because he's fighting with him in the race, even if it's for P4, and on the other, you've got George Russell, who in my opinion is the best position to try and stop Antonelli in the title, letting his teammate pass after the team orders him to do so. Has Antonelli just turned him into a Valtteri Bottas 2.0 this season? Russell fans, you can go ahead and explain your thoughts in the comments down below, but I can see them being thrilled about the driver letting pass his championship rival because the team told him so. His pace was decent enough during the race, and he managed to keep Lewis Hamilton behind, in part thanks to that late virtual. I'm gonna give him a 7. What a couple of the stars those were by Kimi Antonelli, jumping George Russell in the first one and Lando Norris in the second one, but let's remember, he only started P3 because of a slow first sector during qualifying, as he admitted himself during post-race interview. During the race itself, he was actually the driver who got the best lap times while in clean air, ahead of Leclerc and Norris, so his pace was definitely good enough to take yet another win this season. But Mercedes just wasn't on point today with the strategy. That final stop on lap 41 for Haas made him a sitting dog for Norris, who got a really good overtake on him around the outside of turn 1. Had to rely on team orders at the end to get past Russell without any fighting. He gets an 8. Lando Norris claimed a surprising pole position but lost the lead to Antonelli right off the bat on the restart. His team, McLaren, managed his strategy to perfection, putting him on lap 48 at the end for tyres 7 laps fresher than Antonelli's. A good strategy always has to be accompanied by a quick driver, and Norris nailed it today. The tyre difference honestly wasn't that big. I thought he wasn't gonna make it, but it turned out to be the exact opposite. It almost looked too easy the way he managed to catch both Antonelli and Hamilton, overtaking them both during the same lap in a spectacular fashion. Masterclass by Norris, masterclass by McLaren. The only stain on his race is that start when Antonelli absolutely mocked him coming from P2 on the grid. And without Mercedes making the stop with the Italian driver a bit too early, perhaps we wouldn't be talking about Norris right now. But still, driver of the day for me, he gets a 9. Norris is back where he left off, meaning the top step of the podium. Can he actually try to make a late challenge for the championship? We'll see if he can keep this pace and follow in the footsteps of Verstappen last year. Although, with upgrades coming soon for Mercedes, I don't think that's likely. Anyhow, next stop is Monza. Luckily, the Dutch Grand Prix delivered, because it seems like the Temple of Speed is gonna be turned into the Temple of Super Clipping. That's all for today. Thank you for watching the video. Let me know what you think about it in the comments down below, and you can also follow me on my social media. Until next time.